The Monico was one of South Wales's last independent cinemas. After 65 years, it's shown its last film. One man almost single-handedly kept it open for the last quarter of a century.
I've been tied here for 7 days a week, making sure the show's going. I daren't even go out of Cardiff, because if I have a breakdown or an accident, I can't get back. There is no show.
Monico fans queued in freezing weather just to be at the last performance and reminisce. Many spent their cinema-going childhoods at the Saturday morning children's club.
It was real bedlam, and they seemed to employ Nazi stormtroopers with torches as usherettes.
But with closing night, the dream of saving the cinema is over.
Last time for it all.
Tonight, Wales This Week looks back at how one man tried to keep the Monico alive. This was once voted the ugliest building in Cardiff, but now it's closed its doors for the last time. It's left a lot of people very, very sad. The Monico isn't just a cinema, it's an institution. Since the glory days of cinema, it's had a really, really special place in the heart of South Wales cinema goers. Now, all this lovely Art Deco is a bit faded now. The kids all want to see the big films and the multiplexes, so the audiences have been dwindling for years. But for the last quarter of a century, it's stayed open thanks to the dedication and total obsession of just one man. Brian Bull has given 26 years of his life to running this little cinema. But for the last few years he's been losing money, and now he's shown his last film. Closing night and the queue is growing. Die-hard fans have braved the cold to be at the last performance.
We just started to come back, and when we knew it was going to be the last showing, we booked our tickets last week to make sure we could get in, because we knew it would be popular. Haven't been here for years. It was about 35 years since I came as a child, so it's sort of very reminiscent of things.
It's nice, the curtains open and close, the lights in between. You go into the ones in town now, and it's just a great big open screen, adverts running, there's no usherettes, you know, there's no atmosphere in them. This is nice and cosy, as they should be. Gonna miss it? Yeah, very much.
It's on your doorstep, and it's a family thing, isn't it? Your children used to come here on a Saturday, and it's part of my environment. I'm so sad it's going. I've got to be here the last night.
The Monico was built in the 30s and was one of Wales's best-loved cinemas. Its last audience was treated to some cinema nostalgia. Some of them were there on its first night 65 years ago.
I can't remember the film. I don't remember the name of the film.
Was it opening night?
Yes, opening night, yeah. And it broke down about half a dozen times. It did.
When did you first come here?
Shortly after the cinema opened, actually, sometime in the late 1930s, to see the Crazy Gang in Alf's Button Afloat. Do you remember the Crazy Gang?
No, I don't.
All right. Good. Yes, I had to be taken home at the time. I think I laughed so much I was ill.
40 years later, as the Queen was celebrating her Silver Jubilee, Brian Bull bought the Monico. He went straight from a street party to pick up the keys. Little did he know how the next 26 years would turn out.
You take each day as it comes, and you just go forward. I mean, 26 years ago when I started this was the thing I always wanted to do. I dreamed of having a cinema and running it myself, and proving to myself that I could run one. I suppose I've done that, but you don't think that how much it is going to take over. But when you, I suppose it becomes an obsession, and therefore it creeps up on you.
Dick Barton, Special Agent.
His obsession started many years before.
My father was due home on demob-leave. He was in the Royal Corps of Signals, and he'd been stationed in Nordhorn in Germany towards the end, or at least after the end of the war. And he came home with demob-leave, and he sort of came home and he had these various parcels under his arm, and one was a cardboard box tied with a battered piece of string. Apparently it turned out he'd swapped something for it, you see, the chocolate or whatever. We went into the back room, and the box was opened, and there was this sort of projector affair. I mean, I didn't quite know what it was at the time. And he got it out, and there were some little rolls of film and tiny little spools, and he set it up, and it required a battery to this little torch bulb that went in the back, and there was this rather crude lens and a handle. He showed me how to put it together, and he put some film in it, and he turned the handle, and there was this picture on the screen. It was a wondrous thing to be able to produce an image, because this was days well before television, to produce an image on the wall of people and things. I mean, we didn't have much film, about 2 minutes, I suppose, altogether. I think that kick-started my interest in cinemas more than the film itself. I'm not a film buff, I'm interested in cinemas as buildings and places of entertainment and how they work.
In the 50s and 60s, going to the pictures was a big night out. Welsh audiences had a huge variety of cinemas to choose from.
I suppose the Monico really, in a sense, is a classic, intermediate cinema. In South Wales, there were flea pits, there were many places. I think was it Gwyn Thomas used to call his cinema the dog and scratch, where you came out itching and looking for the bites and so on. And then, of course, there were the palatial cinemas, the huge cinemas. City centre cinemas like the Park Hall and the Capitol. The Capitol was so big and so wide that you had to go twice to see the film from different sides. There were those great cinemas. The Monico was the classic in-between cinema.
The Monico was a very professional cinema under Brian. You didn't get errors too much on projection, almost none. And you certainly get them at other cinemas. But it was thoroughly professional, but there was still this intimacy.
A few weeks ago, we caught up with Brian as he went about running the cinema as usual to see how he was coping with the run-up to his final night.
Now then, now comes the tricky bit, folks. I want that out of the way for a minute.
It's hard work.
Gordon Bennett, it's heavy.
And there are no shortcuts.
And don't say put it on casters, it'll be too high. You put it on casters.
Brian's love of cinema is obvious, but while he's been busy changing reels, the cinema business has been changing too.
Yeah. I used to enjoy, when I first started the business, it was 2 machines, change over every 20 minutes and rewinding, you see. And it used to be a bit of fun. But the fun's gone out of it now, I suppose, because you're doing a lot of this work for what? An empty house. I'm doing it all myself now.
And it's a lonely job. Making sure the projection is perfect every time and keeping everything running smoothly.
Running all right.
And looking after the audience.
Drop the house lights up just a fraction. The people who are getting out can see their way out without falling. But not too bright. Have a quick look, see how many's in there. Oh dear, not many. Close the curtains. All the lights off. Shut down the lamp, switch off the lamp, kill the sound. Convert the picture back to standard format. And knock everything off. We are...
But he hasn't finished yet.
Run itself out now, while I hurtle upstairs to see number 1 coming out, probably already.
Even Brian's hard work can't keep the audiences coming. It's often been the fate of little cinemas like the Monico. When we think of the small independent, a lot of us think of the famous British comedy The Smallest Show on Earth, where a young, unsuspecting couple inherit a small, run-down flea pit called the Bijou, complete with drunk projectionist Peter Sellers.
It's the sheriff and his posse.
The film was made in the 1960s, so things have been getting worse for the little cinema for a long time.
Hold your hat, here goes.
Well, is there any point in starting if there's no one here?
Well, I suppose we should show the pictures at the advertised times. Otherwise, well, Of course we should. Oh.
At the Monico, it may never have been as bad as running the Bijou, but there were times when Brian felt like he was living the film.
We've had a few moments, but we've not had trains rumbling by and the foundation shaking and having to hang on to the projector. We have had incidents with film all over the floor, and you try not to stop the show. One of the gags is to get a bin bag and feed it all into a black bin and worry about collecting it all together later.
Quill, nothing to worry about, Mr. Spencer. The film broke. I'll have it fixed in a minute.
Didn't tear the piece apart!
Well, can't you say something to him, sir? The old man always did.
What do I say?
Tell him to shut up and wait for it. We're doing our best.
The Bijou was a bit of a caricature, really, wasn't it? And we don't want to be like that. We've always tried to run professionally. We've tried to make the best presentation, get the best picture and the best sound on the screen, because I think that's the central element of any cinema is the quality of the sound and the quality of the picture.
Despite the hardships, Brian always tried to give his audience the best film experience he could.
And the thing about the Monico is it is such a professional setup. It was a very, very good projection system that, to my mind, was much better than you get in the modern cinemas. It might not have been the cutting-edge technology, but it was really well run, you know, and it showed in the films.
If enough people said to him, well, we should be trying that sort of film, it isn't your usual, but could you try and introduce it, he would do his damnedest to make it happen. There aren't many people around like that anymore.
From day one, Brian wanted to give the Monico a personal touch.
It was a real event coming here on the night the Monico reopened. You felt part of history, and it was enlivened by the fact that Brian did his own announcement, and before the film would start he would say, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monico Cinema in Rubina, Cardiff, the only independent cinema in the whole of the UK with Dolby stereophonic sound." And the audience spontaneously burst into applause.
Applause for a man who wanted to give his audience the best show in town. But the applause has died away. After 26 years of dedication, he lost the battle to keep his dream alive. Find out how in part 2. For the last few years, running the Monico has been more than a full-time job for Brian, all year round, rain or shine.
The wind plays heck with these letters, blows them along the wires.
Even with a small team of dedicated staff, he's had to do most of the jobs himself.
This is Cardiff 2069-3426. You have just called the 24-hour programme information line of the Monico Twin Cinema at Pantock Road, Rubina, Cardiff.
And there's no let-up.
Right. I've got about 5 minutes breather before it all starts happening. I've been tied here for 2.5 years, 7 days a week, making sure the show. I daren't even go out of Cardiff, because if I have a breakdown or an accident, I can't get back. There is no show. I wish yesterday's show.
It may have been hard work, but it gave the Monico a character all of its own. A character that was appreciated in all kinds of ways.
People who come down, from the valley, say, to enjoy the Monico experience, because don't forget, there weren't any showcase cinemas there to take away the business. Everybody used to come down here because the seat prices were actually very good value. And I can remember sitting through Saturday Night Fever, and there was a lady from somewhere up near Aberdare who insisted upon singing along. Oh, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. She knew all the words of all the songs.
The Monico built its own audience. Brian Bull, the manager there, built a wonderful rapport with his audiences, and that was because he cared about cinema so much. We're losing community cinemas, and this is the sad thing about the closure of the Monico to me. Here we are, we've got lots of multiplexes, but they don't have the rapport with the public. They don't have that feeling for the public. Brian used to be out front every night, talking to the customers, you know. He's one of the old school, and, you know, I regret the passing of the Monico for that reason, really.
Now that rapport is lost forever. For generations who grew up watching films at the Saturday morning children's club, things just won't be the same.
It was real bedlam, and they seemed to employ Nazi stormtroopers with torches as usherettes at the time to tell you, get your feet off the seats there, stop throwing popcorn around. So it was a bit of an experience. And we used to watch things like The Three Stooges. Didn't find them funny then, don't find them funny now. But it was all part of the Saturday morning experience. So long as you had your Zoom ice lolly, you were happy.
A regular experience in the 40s and 50s. You would go once, twice a week with the family. Then that marvellous moment would come when you'd start going on your own, and then of course later you would start going with friends, male and female. So it was very, very much part of growing up. And I'm sure for thousands of people, all over Cardiff, but especially people in those northern suburbs, the loss of the Monico is the closure of a very, very important chapter in their history.
Very important indeed. After all, the cinema was one of the best places to meet the opposite sex.
Without a doubt, the most important part of the cinema is the back row. There's a very definite rite of passage for any teenager when they reach the age where they've got to impress.
He's bluffing. He hasn't got a gun at all.
Oh!
Oh?
And if they take them to the cinema, then you've got to choose the right sort of position in the back row to sit so that you can furtively snog away, I think. I always used to favour over there to the sides of the cinema rather than in the middle, because you'd risk the usherettes walking up behind you tutting if you got a bit too carried away.
Of course, we all did our courting in these cinemas, and this often involved changing seats. There would be changing alliances during the course of the evening. You would go with your 5 friends, and then you would be elevated to sit with the most attractive girl in the village, and then she would reject you, so that you go back to your mates. And we all lived our lives in those cinemas.
Although it did put some people off.
We were showing Amadeus, and we'd almost sold out, and this lady and gentleman came in, very, very posh voices, and asked for 2 tickets to see Amadeus. And we said, well, unfortunately, we've only got 2 seats left, they're in the back row. And there was an immediate reaction. If you think I'm sitting in the back row, I know what goes on in there. I'm really not going to have any of that, and stalked out. And we thought, well, that's the sort of service actually we don't provide. It's a long time since actually I've seen that in the back row of the cinema now. It seems to be that's a dying habit actually, snogging in the back row.
But dying habits mean a dying empire for an independent cinema owner. Falling revenue forced Brian to close his beloved Monico to keep his other 2 cinemas going. He owns one in Barry, the Theatre Royal, and another in Culford in the Forest of Dean. They're both still making a profit. 4 years ago, Wales This Week interviewed Brian and asked him if he could survive the arrival of new multiplexes.
All the cinemas are safe at the present moment, but who knows what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years' time. As I say, if I had a crystal ball, I could take the appropriate action. But we don't know that all these multiplexes will get built. Some of them are only proposals at the moment.
Welcome to the world of Virgin Cinemas.
If he'd had a crystal ball, he would have seen the unstoppable rise of the multiplex, a rise the Monico couldn't withstand.
One multiplex is one thing, 3 is another, and then I'm also told now that the 4th one will open in Cardiff in the middle of this year. Now that will take the tally of screens within 3 miles of this cinema to over 60. Now, there is no way that a small independent cinema can possibly survive against that competition.
Brian couldn't get the latest blockbuster Chicago when it came out. The distributors wouldn't let him have the film until over a month after it opened. Much too late to get a good audience.
The price of films has gone up, because if you imagine Lord of the Rings in Cardiff, each multiplex had at least 4 prints each. So our single copy really was we were just picking out the leftovers, and what we were having to pay for the privilege of showing that was way above what we would have paid for a major film 10 years ago.
Brian did manage to show the 2 towers on the Monico's last night. It was later than the other cinemas, but he was left with no choice. Despite the crowds on closing night, there haven't been enough loyal customers to keep the Monico open. Now the cinema will be bulldozed to make way for a new block of flats.
Well, it is the patrons' fault, really. It's all our fault, yeah, because, you know, we haven't been coming regularly. Well, I think cinemas almost went out of fashion, but now they're coming back again. And of course, it's too late for us.
Tonight is busier than we've been for a very long time, and it's a shame that all the people who are here tonight weren't here on a regular basis. If we had this sort of level of support every night of the week, we wouldn't be facing closure as we are in sort of an hour or so's time.
During the last reel of the last film, Brian takes down the billing letters. Are you surprised there are so many people here?
Yes, I am a bit, because the way things have been going the last 7 days, particularly after we announced we were closing, it was actually getting worse. We were sort of fading away. I suppose that's what films do, isn't it? Fade to black.
Then the final moment arrives. The last customers leave the auditorium. How are you feeling, Brian?
A bit peculiar. Don't really know.
Sad?
Yeah. Yeah. Last time for it all. About to change my mind. Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a multiplex, just up the road, but I would hazard the guess that when that multiplex closes, in a few decades' time, there won't be as many sad people as there will be in the north of Cardiff.
This man has spent years in a solitary struggle. He believes he's been unfairly treated. He's gone to every tribunal he can. And now he's gone to one of the highest courts in the land. Wales This Week tells his story next Thursday.